we're joined by best-selling author Usha Narayanan. Usha had a successful career in advertising, media, and corporate communications before becoming a full-time author. She has written several books, including The Madras Mangler, The Love, Ideas, and Layoffs, and her latest book is The Secret of God's Son, which is a sequel to her best-selling book Pradyumna, Son of Krishna. Usha, welcome to LitFestx.
Thank you for having me here, Kumar. It's a pleasure to be with you and join the famous authors that you've interviewed before.
You're one of the famous authors as well, Usha.
Thank you.
So, today for our viewers, we are discussing genre hopping because clearly you're someone who's written several genres and many of them at the same time. So it's not like you write one genre and move on to the other. I think you're redefining genre hopping. You're not hopping from one to the other. You're straddling genres at the same time. And let's talk about how is that happening? How are you compartmentalizing your mind space to look at so many different genres at the same point in time?
Perhaps it started from the fact that I do read a lot of genres. So different times I have a fancy, I read the whole set of Lee Child's or Sanford, his Prey series, and then I'm so tired of them, I want something lighter and I move to a rom-com, for instance. And recently, it's actually, I should say, I discovered mythology. And as a reader myself, I found it so fascinating that I entered that area as well. So it was not something planned. As I read, I expect readers also will be interested in many. Though the conventional wisdom is that you should stick to one genre and you keep writing on that and you have a committed audience. I think we are underestimating our readers because I find that they are open to a good book, whatever it may be. So it just happened. It is difficult, as you say, to switch gears. But
very interestingly, you mentioned that you believe that readers are reading various genres at the same time. In your interaction with your readers, your fans, do you find that there are readers who have followed you across genres, who have followed, and bought your books across genres?
There are some men who are saying, oh, I'm reading a Harlequin rom-com or a romance for the first time in my life. But the fact is that the rom-com, Love, Lies, and Layoffs, is set in a glitzy media empire. And it's all about power games and politics and, affairs and all kinds of drama which goes on in offices, corporate offices. And a lot of people can relate to that. It's not necessarily only those who are romantic. And these days, I think a lot of men are writing very successfully the romance genre. So I think I had my doubts when I wrote The Madras Mangler. I, in fact, wondered if I should give myself a male pseudonym, whether they would accept a traditional woman writing with a traditional name, writing a story about a serial killer. But surprisingly, it doesn't seem to matter. No one cares. There are lots of people who ask me to write more in the same series with the same characters. There are people who followed me into romance. There are some who say you should write only romance hereafter. There are even youngsters from 10 years to 80 who read Pradyumna, Son of Krishna, and are now reading The Secret of God's Son. And you tell me, no, you shouldn't write anything else. You should write only mythology. But they are so sweet. They do read the other stuff, whether they normally read it or not. Maybe it's the first time for them. A lot of people who have read the mythology said we've never read Indian mythology before. Those who are probably not Hindus and are not familiar with that ethos and those characters, they take the trouble, and I think finally what they want is a good read. And I think we shouldn't underestimate readers and think that they want the same stuff over and over again. Just like an author cannot do the same stuff over and over again, I think, because it becomes monotonous. A creative person needs a challenge, needs something new. That is what keeps my brain cells humming and active and buzzing. And I think readers also want something. They don't want the expected. They want the unexpected. If you're eating vanilla ice cream and there are hazelnuts in that, you look forward to that. in the same way, the unexpected always has its thrill.
Usha, on a separate note, I've got a long day ahead, hopefully, of doing these interviews, and your discussion on vanilla ice creams with hazelnuts has suddenly made me hungry. But on a back to a serious note, when you say that we shouldn't underestimate readers, I'm not sure it is more a case of underestimation vis-a-vis trying to figure out more from a demand and marketing perspective, right? So I think to a certain extent, what the publishing industry in India for many years has done is to try and slot authors and readers both in providers and consumers of material on specific genres, because that's how somehow the marketing of books and targeting of readers has emerged. Are you then saying that both on the supply side, that is authors who are writing across multiple genres, as well as readers who very rightly, as you say, are consuming different genres at the same time? So do you think this is a emerging phenomena, and that we will see more of this, where one author will write across genres and go to the same reader? So you will have flocks of fans, just as you have, let's say, in cinema, where fans will go to a particular actor or actress's movies, irrespective of what kind of movie it is, whether it's a comedy or action or a thriller.
Yes, I get what you're saying. It's true that publishers sometimes say that, I'm not picking up thrillers this year. We have decided not to take this. But it's difficult, you live with a book for some 90,000 words. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of writing and rewriting and polishing and plotting and working up to the finale and editing and cutting and all that. So you live with your book for a long time, and I think you can only write what is fun for you, which should also be fun for the reader. If you do not have that zest, that passion for whatever you're creating at that point of time, I don't think you can come across very well to the audience, to the reader, and it's not going to interest them. And it's like, something like these engineering courses or, medical courses, students, they're told that, there is so much demand for computer science and everyone flocks to computer science courses. But when they are done with it, 5 years down the line, is the demand going to be the same? Can we predict what one particular publisher is going to like or not like? Because the process of writing, presenting it to, as a query, the first few chapters, and then the whole thing, and then waiting for it to be printed, it is a long process, extending over a long period of time. We can't really say that just because mythology sells now, it's going to sell a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line. So it's like all these movies which are created to some formula or format, and they just fall flat because it's all me too, the same thing, regurgitated again and again. And readers or audiences are not willing to take that. So I think it is a risk, and hopefully you will build yourself. It is you who's the brand, and you should build your equity so that the reader knows that if he comes to you or she comes to you, they will be sure of having a page turner. In my case, I write page turners because I do not have patience for those arty kind of novels, because I don't read them myself. We are living in a fast-paced world of 124 characters and even shorter. And no one has time to wade through thousands of pages. It's not something which keeps their attention. And I'm from an advertising background. For 20 years, I worked as a copywriter, as creative director in advertising. There it is all about getting hold of attention, grabbing attention and holding on to it. So each chapter will, in my whatever I write, will be something which wants you to turn the page, which makes it difficult for you to stop there. So that is the kind of novel I write, whether it is mythology or whether it is a rom-com. The plot is important, the story is important, something is happening. There should be humor, there should be fun. So people have a smile also. Even when in Madras Mangla, you'll find it's not all about gory killings. Those are rather difficult to write, actually, to tell you the truth. But there is a lot of humor, there is interaction. People can relate to the characters, their mothers and daughters. It's about 5 girls who are setting out to the big city on their own, living in a hostel and studying. The parents, the mothers getting worried, a patriarchal society, looking down upon their clothes, their mannerisms, and saying they are inviting trouble. That is something which we find is very relevant today to women, to girls. That was written during the time of Nirbhaya. So, relevance to society, even Pradyumna and The Secret of God's Son, all of them have relevance to society. I think that is also another way in which we hold on to readers' attention.
Very interesting that you mentioned, given your background of advertising, and if I can say, you're trained to keep the viewers or readers' attention. So, in many ways, you've got the formula, right? So, but your formula is not dependent on the content. Your formula is, as you say, about, and there's nothing wrong in it. It's a brilliant thing. Ultimately, a person buying a book wants to be engrossed in it, wants to be totally absorbed into the story. And if you're able to do that across a variety of genres, well, I think you've got the winning formula then, Usha.
I hope so. I really hope so. At least my publishers seem to think so. And it's Penguin and HarperCollins have published my books. And especially as I do not know a single soul. I live in Chennai and all the publishers are in Delhi. So it is just your work which speaks for you, which is what I would like to say to aspiring authors as well. You don't need to know anyone. You should just make sure that your product, it is a product ultimately, unless someone buys it and reads it, all the work that you put in, all the hours that you've slogged, it's just wasted. So it's not about fame or money even, it is about reaching out to more readers, at least to me. And the fact that these big publishers have taken it up and published it and distributed it so beautifully around the country and abroad, I'm very happy and thankful because it brings me more people. And if there is a thriller group which wants me to write more of, in the series of Madras Mangla, there's someone who wants me to write more rom-coms, it's good. You reach more people. More people know that this author, I can, happily buy a book and I will not be disappointed. Some of them want more action. They'll say, I want more gore. Write some violent books, Usha. Don't write these romances. And there'll be someone else who say, no, only mythology. After Amar Chitrakara, this is the only thing which brings me back memories of my childhood. And I'm so happy to read all these. And unknown stories that they've never heard of. Our ancient epics, kavyas, they all have so many, stories which you've never heard of. I had never heard of till I started doing research on that. So I'm so happy that I have the opportunity. I have the skills because of so many years of writing. And then as a reader, I know what I want. And I hope I will be able to deliver the same to my readers as well.
So when you're talking about going for readers who are able to read across genres and appreciate and enjoy them, and certainly your readers seem to be doing that. When you are writing across genres, what are the key commonalities that are emerging? Apart from the fact that they are all page turners and attention grabbers, but in terms of your process, what is the common elements that you use and that you find?
I start with character mostly, and sometimes the characters get so much life in them that they won't go in the way that I want them to go. I have a plot in mind, I have something planned, but sometimes they, protest this, just stand in one place and say, I'm not moving like a mule. So then you need to find out where they want to go. And I'm happy that they've got their own life and they've come, they become real. Actually, my Madras Mangla did not start as a story about a serial killer. It was supposed to be chick lit. It was just 5 girls having fun in college. And then what? What happens to them? They can't just be leading a banal life, just having, a love affair and just doing the usual college stuff. So strangely enough, I thought of a serial killer coming onto the scene. So the huge, the pleasant, peaceful Chennai streets and streams and rivers are suddenly filled with dead bodies. And that meant I had to rewrite the whole thing, start from the beginning, change the tone, the mood. The characters remain the same, but the whole thing had to be rewritten, though I had written some 20, 30,000 words, and it changed it completely. So I start with the character, and when that character is colorful enough and is able to, stand by itself, then what happens? Plot is also very important to me. I cannot, being an advertising person, brevity is sort of something which I have grown up with. A banner will have 8 words. Now we have Twitter, which has very few words. And most art directors and advertising agencies will slash the copy if they can. They will like to omit it completely sometimes, but we won't let them do that. So we are used to writing very briefly. So for me, I have never been able to write lakhs and lakhs of words, which I'm struggling to cut down. I often end up with 50,000 words, which I need to add, more substance and make it 70 or 80 or 90. So I start with that. And plotting, it is important, especially for something like the Madras Mangler, which is almost like a zigzag puzzle. I had color-coded charts in order to keep all the characters, the interactions, when did they last come, what did they do? And it was an intellectual exercise almost. Pradyumna was a different thing. I had planned only on one book, but once I started gathering the material, there was so much, it stretched into 2 books. And that meant a lot of planning and plotting as well. So that required more planning. Love, Lies and Layoffs was more fun. It is set in the humorous genre. So that probably did not need as much plotting. So character, plot, action, and a breathtaking finale. And everywhere I feel what is important is that we need to maybe tacitly or, very lightly touch upon principles and values that we feel are important. For me, women's rights, that a woman should be respected and given her due as an individual. It's not that a woman is superior or a man is superior. Each person as an individual has to be respected and given their rightful place and their choice. So women's rights, animal rights, there are some things which are important to me. And integrity and, Kali Kalam, we say, Kali Yuga, where the principles and everything are called into question. We question ourselves. Should we follow the crowd? So I definitely believe that we should not follow the crowd, which you can see also in my writing in different genres. Whereas if I were probably smart and followed what most websites and most authors probably suggest that we should go in the same track, I am all over the place. So I think each of us should forge our own path. And who knows, there may be others who are ready to follow us. So that's my philosophy of life, which also comes through in my books.
Very well put, Usha. And, certainly I think you shouldn't feel that you're all over the place. I think it's more about going and doing what you're really liking. So like you mentioned, you like to read different genres at one time, so you like to write different genres at the same time. And secondly, going after different readers, because not everyone is reading everything at the same time. So I'm sure very few people have the ability and the flair and from what you say, the technique to be able to treat different genres well at any given point in time. So congratulations and good luck with that. Yeah. So
Thank you so much.
Now, knowing that you're doing so much all the time, what's next? What's in store for your readers?
As usual, I have a rom-com, I have a mythological piece. Lots of things are going on at the same time. And, at different times I favor different ones. So I think you can expect to see more in different directions again. And I hope my readers will follow me down those tracks as well.
So are we going to see any book which is going to merge 2 of your favorite genres? So can we, I'm a little afraid to say this since this is getting recorded and we have people watching it live as well, but can we see a rom-com mytho book?
Sounds very interesting. Why not? That's a new idea. I'm sure I should take that into consideration as well.
Which will appeal to all generations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you've got mythological characters, falling in and out of love, and the entire narrative is very humorous.
True.
Um,
Yes, why not?
I think that will be a very phenomenal treatment of the subject, right?
Definitely.
I can trust if there is somebody who can do this mashing up of genres and still come on tops is certainly you, Usha.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Sounds
Great.
really interesting.
Great. So, thank you so much for joining us, Usha, and some very candid answers on the subject. And wish you continued success in all your endeavors.
Thank you so much, and thanks to LitFestx. I wish you more and more success in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.